All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to 12 Days of Gracefulness with me, Grace. You know who I am, hopefully. If you do not, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. I love new people joining my tribe. So I'm glad that you're here to join us. So, 12 Days of Gracefulness, it started last year unintentionally. It wasn't something I wanted to do, but it's something that I needed to do. So I'm here. And I hope that this year also it touches and it helps. If you have a chance, go back and look at last year. It'll be on YouTube. But we are here for the end of the year. We're about to go into a new year. We have new things coming up. We all have New Year's resolutions and all the things that we say are going to happen in our next year. But for some of us, we have not fully accomplished everything that we need to accomplish for 2022. And we have some things that maybe we need to kind of work on in our mind, in our spirit, things that we need to get together so that 2023 can be all that we need it to be. So, to that end, I have invited some of my friends, my family, my loved ones, those I trust to be able to kind of help guide us as we go into this new year. So each day we have a new person, we have a new topic, and these topics, oh my gosh, they are something. So make sure you follow every 12 days, make sure you're with us. But today, I have who I call one of my other mamas. She came into my life unintentionally, I'll say. It wasn't something I really planned, but she's here and she's not going anywhere. So I'm happy to have her here with me. This is LaShan Perry-Marr is her full name. I'll let her introduce herself and who she is. But her topic specifically that I gave her was processing in and through pain. So that is what we're talking about today. I know you're probably like, oh God, but this is something we need to talk about. Some of us are still stuck. Some of us are still processing. So we kind of need to know how to get through that, how to continue in it, and how to keep it moving. So without further ado, I have my other mama who's going to talk to us about that. We're going to have a conversation and we're going to help us just process so that we can go into 2023 in a good mental space. Right. So Mom, I'm going to let you go ahead. When I gave you this topic, what were you thinking?
I think one of the things, and it's great to be here, Grace. Thank you again. It's always an honor just to speak to you in this venue. Of course, I speak to you at other times,
Yeah.
but this is extremely special. When you gave me the topic, my first thought was, oh my goodness, because I think pain is something that for most people, I don't want to say it's inevitable, but it's a part of life often to get from one stage to the next, even if it's something as simple as taking an exam at school. It's not comfortable. It's not like, oh, okay, great joy. And so we don't like to deal with our pain. I know let me speak for myself. I do not always like to deal with my pain
Me
because
neither.
it hurts. It hurts. Who wants to deal with it? But it's so necessary. And sometimes, there's three responses they say to trauma. And I'm just going to associate pain with trauma for this session. It's fight, flight, or freeze.
Mm-hmm.
And often I have been a flighter, like in past years. It's like, yeah, pressure's too much pain. Yeah, I'm out. Peace, deuces.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to learn how to fight through it, not just run away from it or not be immobilized by it. And so, yeah, and I don't know, I believe it's kind of a setup because I've dealt with a lot of pain, some that I knew was painful, and some of it I just kind of I glossed over it as if it wasn't painful because I still had to put on a face or a presence for people, for family. Life goes on and you don't have time to sit in it. And so sometimes I didn't even process through the pain until much later. And some things just got missed. And so I missed the opportunity to grow through it. So yeah, I was like, what a topic.
And that's good. And this is not the first time somebody's like, you set me up. It is not not intentional as far as like on a surface level, but on some level, I guess it makes sense, depending on who it is. And you said something about pain, about how sometimes we just kind of gloss over it. We kind of live our lives in the midst of it. And it's funny because for those who know me, I identify as Christian. I go to church, all that. So every now and then you'll hear me say something. But my pastor was talking to me, and he said something to me about being free from the burden that I've been carrying. Because sometimes you learn to carry that burden and still be, still do, still produce, still encourage, all the things that we do. But then you're dealing with all this other stuff that sometimes everybody can't see. And that includes the pain and the trauma. But he said, it's time to be able to function without that burden. And I think that sometimes we think that it's just inevitable that we function with it, as opposed to actually processing it and dealing with it and being free from it. Now, some things are always going to be a continual process, depending on how deep it is, but I don't think that we have to just stay in it. It's not something that we just have to have. So let's talk a little bit about, if you like, going into certain experiences, and how you figured out, I guess, how to actually process it so that you can be free and live past it.
Two things one thing, and then I'm going to get to the question. As you were talking, I thought about perspective. And you mentioned carrying things and just feeling like, okay, well, we have to, or it almost becomes part of us. It's been with us so long. And so perspective is everything. And just realizing, no, I don't have to deal with this like this. I don't have to carry this. Or some things we may need to carry, but just it puts it in proper perspective that it won't always be like this. It's for a purpose and whatever the case is. So you ask the question of specific instances and things that I kind of experienced. And so some of you may know, I wrote a book about a part of it entitled Cover Girl Uncover, His Mask, Her Story. And part of that, when you talk about pain, there's been different seasons of pain, but one of the ones that I remember probably most, that stands out the most, was I was in a marriage. I got married at 18, my first marriage. And I don't want to be redundant, but again, it was painful for me, and it has made me who I am, or processed me to a better place. So I was in this marriage, married to a person. I don't even know if I want to tell what they did, but I'll tell it. A prominent person. I was married to a bishop. And this particular bishop was living a alternate lifestyle that didn't include me. He was living down low, is what we used to call it. I don't know what they call it nowadays.
Same.
Okay. All right. And I remember carrying the pain of knowing that my husband was with other men, knowing that there was no way I could compete with another man. And I'm not, everyone can love the way they feel like they need to love. That's not my point. My point is, if you're in a committed marriage and he's not shared with the other person, that they are not even what you want. So I'm dealing with rejection. I'm dealing with the pain of adultery. I'm dealing with what feels like a failed marriage. And yet I am in ministry and having to show up every Sunday and with a smile. People will bring you their problems and their issues, and you have to try to preach them out of their low place while you are yet at rock bottom. And it was years. I was married for 20 years in that situation. And I just remember carrying it so much that I didn't feel like I could be me. I couldn't be free. I couldn't even be free to feel. And as much pain as I was carrying,
wow.
And you could just imagine like a volcano ready to explode of emotions, and I could not let it out. And I remember went to North Carolina and was at a banquet where you're eating and supposed to be having fun. And because of so much pressure that I had been carrying of falsehood to my authentic self, I remember, I don't even know what happened at this wonderful, joyous banquet, but I ended up on the floor because I hadn't cried, I hadn't processed, I hadn't dealt with it. And I remember it was such a bad eruption of emotion that I was in the floor till after the banquet was over, wailing as if someone had just you know, like I had just lost my best friend.
Mhm.
And so I hadn't processed. And I think that was for me a salient moment to realize that if you don't process, this thing will kill you.
Mhm.
And at what point do you decide you over it?
Mm. That.
That
My God. You
I
said,
didn't leave. I didn't leave, but I had to start putting myself first.
mhm.
And
And
I
you
think,
said so much that I'm like, which door? Like I was talking to someone, I was like, all right, which way am I going here? Um, because I think it's really important, like in your story, and every time you share that, I'm just like, I look at you and I'm always in awe because that is a long time, to be in something that you just know is, that's a long time. And I know nowadays people be like, oh, ain't no way, I ain't doing that, I'm out. But when you're in something, you can't necessarily just like break it. That's not how life really works. But you said something about, well, you said a couple things, and I'm gonna come to both of them, but not being free to feel. And that was so big to me because it's almost like you're a prisoner within your own, mind, but also a prisoner because you have people with these expectations of how you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to feel, and so you're almost trapped within a prison within a prison because like how do you free yourself from that, their expectations as well as maybe even your own expectations of what you thought things should be, like how do you get away, get it, how do you get out of that?
yeah, that's interesting. My one of my best friends, and she also was my therapist at one point, but she used to say, "You are trapped in a pretty prison." She said,
Mm-hmm.
because on the outside it looks beautiful, it looks like a palace, but if people only knew the hell that you were going through inside, it's a pretty prison.
Yeah.
And the expectation it was for me, it wasn't just about, I couldn't allow it to be about me. I didn't think, because I had three small children. I was operating a church with this person who was constantly betraying me day by day. Um, and I felt a responsibility to others to be
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yep.
And in some settings, it's not allowed. Like, you ask people, how are you doing? And you just expect somebody to say fine. And if they tell you, no, I'm having a bad day, like, this is horrible. This is
Yeah.
painful. People don't expect that, and neither do they listen or want to hear it often.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of, why express my pain? Why let someone even know what I'm going through if no one seems to care?
Exactly.
So I
And
didn't
I
give
think
people
so
permission.
with the and it's hard, and I think that as just as humans, as people, we need to do a better job of actually caring, sometimes we'll ask, how are you, and we're waiting for the, oh, everything is great. But if someone says, well, today is not a good day, things are, you don't necessarily want to sit and hear all that all the time. So I used to say, like, if you don't really want to know how I am, don't ask me. Because if you don't want to know, then there's no point in even opening that door. So just as humans, I think we just need to do better at, if we are asking, actually caring. We have the suicide rates and things that are going higher because people have this pain and
Mhm.
this trauma and all these things that they are not effectively able to express. And it may be that someone has said they're there and they, whatever, or it may be that they've tried to reach out and people just haven't given them what they need. But we just have to be very aware because pain, it will kill you. I think Mama said that earlier, like that will take you out. And I was saying, I'm trying to remember what I wrote. But basically, it's the hidden things that'll take you out. It's not that, face that we put on. We all know how to give it. We all know how to smile. We all know, believe me, I am a pro at being able to put on this amazing face and everything is pleasant, but underneath I am erupting.
Mhm.
So we're all good at that. But being able to have a safe space to say, okay, no, today is not a good day for me. And then
Right.
not feel like people are going to judge you and put you in a box of, oh, they're just this and that. No, today is just not a good day.
Mhm.
And that's how we start processing this pain when we feel like we have these safe arenas, I guess, these safe people, these safe places to be able to say everything is not perfect. Like imagine if, your the church members and all that had been like, you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. Like we just really want to make sure you're okay.
Mhm.
Imagine if they had given that as opposed to it should be this way. You're a bishop's wife and you're supposed to this is supposed to be happening. Oh no, our bishop wouldn't. Imagine if it was a different way.
Mhm. It would have given me years back. And I don't think I am a Christian as well. And I don't believe that God wastes anything. So even
Absolutely.
through our pain and however we get to the process and get through it, I think that God will use it. But I believe I would have had years back. Um, yeah, years back. And I think we have to give people the grace to not be okay. I
Yeah.
think one of the hardest things as I have sat with people in pastoral care spaces and in therapeutic sessions. And one of the hardest things, too, is one to see people cry because we want people's pain. We don't want to see people, their pain makes us uncomfortable often.
Yes.
And also to sit with people in silence because sometimes there's not comforting words, but you just have to sometimes just sit in the process of the pain. I recall one of the reasons why I think I erupted so bad at that point was because I had been holding it in. And I was like, it's too painful. And I don't know if anybody has ever experienced anything like that, but it was so much pain that I felt like if I have one teardrop, I'm
Yeah.
gonna probably almost lose my mind. And I'll admit that now, like I felt like on the verge of almost a breakdown of like this is too much emotion to even start a little bit of it because a trickle is going to cause an avalanche. And so I think it's so important, even this topic, learning how to process through in and through the pain. I mean, you know, you got to deal with stuff. And it
Absolutely.
is what it is sometimes. And sometimes it's not the best. Sometimes it's a terrible situation. But then, okay, I'm still here. So how do I deal with it? Because something better has got to come out of this. And that's the frame of mind I think that I had to get to.
And I think you said it like you started getting to that point where it was you over it. And I think we have to get to that point because at some point it is a decision. Like, is this going to win? Am I going to allow this to be what my life looks like, what I live like, what I think like, am I going to allow this or am I going to decide I want something different? Because in the end, it is a decision. It's not always an easy decision because we get comfortable in our pain. I think we get comfortable with what we know. As much as we might not like it, we're comfortable. We know this, and it's human nature to be like, I don't know that other side. So I think I'm just going to stay right here. But when we want different and we know there's different, we have to be okay with choosing us over that. And that's hard. I know that's hard for me. Even when I think about like my children, and I think about there's times where I need something. Mommy is hurting. This is happening. Um, but often I will choose them or I'll choose my husband. Well, they need this and they need that. And then I'm left screaming because I should have just taken that time to say, I'm important too. So that's with this pain, we have to really just decide what do we want our lives to look like. So in thinking about that, how like if you're so used to choosing everyone else, everything else, their expectations, all that stuff, if you're so used to being there, how do you process to a point where you get there, where it's, well, I'm important and I need this and it's me over this thing?
I think if I'd be honest, it's still a struggle. I was on the plane last week, and one of the hardest things that I hear and realize is a reality when they say, put on your mask first before you put on your babies, before you put on
It's like,
those that
what?
you take care. Every time I hear it, I'm like, that is the daggone craziest thing. But I think it hit me last week that, yeah, because they can't help me.
Mhm.
So if I'm not strong, if I'm not well, how really am I helping others on depleted, borrowed time? That,
Mhm.
you know, and so it was a process, man. It was a process. And especially when you grow up, I'm a PK. And so as a preacher's kid, for those that
Me
don't know
too.
what a PK is,
Yep.
so like you are taught to sacrifice. You're taught to give your parents up for, other people. You're taught to give, food out of your refrigerator to go help somebody. So that, like, that is so in my DNA. It's hard even now. Like if I just need a minute and someone calls and says they need something, it's like, okay, let's drop what you're doing and do. But so it's a balancing act. It's constantly reminding myself, as you said, I matter, and I matter. And that's not cocky. That's not me being full of myself, but I matter. I matter just as much as someone else, and I still will do, but I just try to balance it. And it's difficult because I'd rather give than to receive most days of my life.
Yeah. See, that's why we love each other because I'm
Mhm.
absolutely that giver. And I've had to, it's a balancing act, as you said, because I said I never wanted to get so me, that I stopped being the giver that I am. But I also had to understand my storage capacity. So if I've given, and I'm so low that I have nothing else to give, then I can't effectively be all that I'm supposed to be because I have nothing to give. So at some point, you do have to say, all right, I need a moment to restore. I was talking to someone about just how busy things have been. And I'm like, I am tired. It's somebody who could actually hear me. I know who to talk to. And that's another thing, you figure out who to talk to. But I was like, I'm tired. Like anybody else who asks me, I'll say I'm okay, because they can't really,
Yeah.
help at this point. But I was like, I'm very tired. And mentally, I'm exhausted. Physically, I'm carrying a whole baby. I'm tired.
Oh,
Um,
baby boy, how about that?
but what I had to do intentionally for me this week was schedule a massage. I was like, I need a moment. And mentally, I need a break. Physically, I need a break. So, what can I do in the midst of all the busyness, the kids, the husband, the work, the everything? What can I do that will refill me at least enough to where I can be what I need to be? Um, and the massages, what was it? I mean, Christmas is coming up, and for me, it was like, okay, Christmas it's not maybe typical for everybody, but for me, it can be emotionally a lot. Because I deal with a lot of history stuff and family stuff and a whole lot of other things. So
Talk
for
more
me,
about that.
emotionally,
Talk
yeah,
about that.
yeah. So emotionally, it's a lot for me. It's not just everything is cheery and bright. It's a lot for me. So I have to know my capacity and what I need to be okay. So as we're thinking about, I guess Christmas, we're coming to this end of the year. How do we build ourselves enough to where our capacity to love, to give, to still be is where it needs to be? But then we take those moments periodically to continue to build ourselves as we build others.
I think it's as you mentioned, it's just a matter of doing. And I have to do it every day, meaning I have to renew it every day because I'll fall back into, oh, I got this list. I got 25 things on the list. I have 20 hours to do it. And I'm not on that list at all.
Mm-hmm.
So just, constantly reevaluating, knowing yourself. You mentioned something even about the holiday, and we got to know our triggers. So when you know what causes further pain, and you just kind of build some things in to make sure that you're taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
That's important,
It
and
is.
especially around this time.
And it took because I'm always, y'all know, I'm always just like, this is what it is. I have not always been okay, during Christmas and during all these times. Because growing up in foster care, I didn't have my family. So for me, Christmas is still a trigger. I have people who I call family now, but I think about my biological family and I'm like, well, do they care? Are they even thinking about me? It's Christmas time, my anyway. So that's a whole other. So it's a trigger, and you have to get to a point where you intentionally again place those things so that it doesn't cause further pain if you know your triggers. And then at some point, it becomes okay, we know this is something, but we're not going to allow it to take over. Because if I allowed it to take over, then that's affecting my kids, and that's affecting the ones who do love me, who are around. If I'm walking around depressed and moping, and they're like, well, mommy, what's going on? I can't really tell them. So you have to be able to handle it and have those safe places and those people who will accept if in a moment you look a little off and to be able to get you back. Because I have some people who, very few, but I have people who can bring me back when they see me going another way. So I think it's also about surrounding ourselves at least with one or two people who can see the pain, see the process that we're dealing with, accept that we're dealing with this process and not want perfection, and then see us further than where we are.
They allow us to be. I think that that's so important. And I think reauthoring our narrative, it sounds like what you have done. Because yes, this was not good, this was painful, but the process has allowed you to say, it wasn't, however, my future is not going to be as my past has been.
Absolutely.
And so reauthoring the narrative often is a therapeutic measure that people use, and you know that because you take care of our minds and
yes,
and our bodies and such. But you gotta take the power back from the story. You got to take the power back.
Yeah,
So
but that's not easy. Like I always come back to that. This is not something I woke up and I was all of a sudden just healed and perfect. This took years. I mean, into adulthood, because I was in foster care from age 6, I think, to 18. Like I aged out of foster care. So that was a long time of trauma, just building and building and building. So this is not something that I'm saying, y'all, that is going to be, oh yeah, I'm going to wake up tomorrow. And even if you're in church and you're praying, because I believe in prayer and I believe in, having like-minded pray for you and all of that. But even with prayer, I found that I had to do my own work. Like I had to daily decide I wasn't going to let this thought happen, and daily decide, okay, no, I'm not going to do that today. We're not going into that rabbit hole today. And it took time for me to even get to this place. And there's still processing that's happening. There's still things that come up that trigger when it comes to my family and different things. But you have to really just say, okay, what do I want for my history? And then I take it beyond me, because it's not just about me anymore. Even if I didn't have children, how do I want my life to affect those I'm around? As a Grace, I know that I have a certain platform and I know that I have people to reach. But if I am not well, I can't reach them. And then to me, that's your blood is on my hand because I did not do what I was supposed to do. So it becomes global almost. It becomes more holistic and not just, okay, what do I need to do for me, 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 but how do I be well so that others can be well?
You have to. When you gave me this topic, I was like, okay, where are where we're supposed to go? Just processing and kind of meditating on what needed to be kind of brought to the fore. And one of the things that came to mind was a diamond. And most of us love a real diamond. The bigger the better. All of this, but who understands the pressure that the diamond has to endure in order to get to that place? And sometimes we are diamonds in the rough. I did a study on diamonds and found out that diamonds in the rough sometimes are black. They look like dirt. They don't even look like anything special. And they have to endure years and years and years of pressure in order to make it something of value. Yeah. And so even if, people are out there watching it and they're like, man, it's just been years and we've been enduring this and whatever the case is, the pressure will produce. It will definitely produce, and you'll be something of value because you endured what you went through. And I love what you said. It is not a magic cure. It's nothing overnight. That's just you're gonna wake up and be like, oh yeah. I mean, you get pieces, but I promise you, gosh, I don't know if I can say that. I'm gonna say it. I won't say I had daddy issues. My dad was, as I mentioned, he was in ministry, great man, awesome spiritual father. But he grew up in a time where church was everything, and they didn't. He didn't have a father. And so that's one of the things that he would say he regretted, that he did not spend time. He spent more time in church than he did with the family. And because of it, I realized I may have daddy issues.
Mm-hmm.
Like, feelings of abandonment, feelings of rejection, even in certain things, because I was misunderstood. And I think I'm okay until my husband did something to my current husband now, who is wonderful, did something. And it wasn't even bad. But I mean, when I say I thought I was fine, I thought I didn't have any triggers left to be triggered. And I just went to a place and it was like, he said, I'm not him. And that him could have been my ex. It could have been, my dad. It could have been uncle, whoever, and so you're right. You have to, like, this is a process. And I don't know that it ends. It's just like those with addictions. They say, once you're an addict, you always have to fight that. I think it's the same thing with pain, and just making sure that you always stay in a well place. Take your temperature, your emotional temperature, and make sure if it's not where it needs to be, like you said, kind of self-regulate, do what you have to do to get yourself out of it. Don't ignore it.
Mm-hmm. Don't ignore it. And oh man, okay. So you said a lot of things. I'm like, wait, we don't have the time. I think it's really important as we're going forward. Again, there could be so many, and I may have to come back and do something else because there's so many ways to go with this. But I think it's really crucial to acknowledge that you're going to get triggered. This pain, I mean, it's not something that just usually just goes away, especially if it's deep. It's something that you're going to have to every day make that decision. This is not going to be that. Like, we're not doing that. And when you were talking about your current husband, I was like, yeah, I remember some things because there's some things my husband has done and I'll flip off and he's like, what is happening? And then he thinks about, oh, okay. Yeah. And he has to remember, okay, this is what I need to say to you in this moment. This is so that I'm not that. And I'm not walking away. I'm not doing, when you have all these deep buried issues, whether it's rejection, somebody cheating on you, whether it's abandonment, whatever it is, these are things that are not, unfortunately, easy. Because you don't want to be rejected. You don't want to be abandoned. You feel betrayed, and people do things to you. But at some point, we have to be able to live past it. We can't let that be our current story. We can't let it be, well, this is what I'm going to deal with, because this happened to me and everything that I do is going to be a result of that. We can't do that because that's not fair to us. That's not fair to anyone else who doesn't, new people, that's not fair to them. Let's say you were married before, you taking all that baggage from that old marriage and you bringing it to your new marriage, it's not going to work. That's why you have these second, third, divorces, because you're bringing that baggage and you never officially deal with it. There was a song, I used to sing it, but I chuckle about it by Erykah Badu, Bag Lady. And every time I heard that song, I was like, yes. But then I started to think about it in more of a mental health way, because that's just kind of where I go. And I'm like, you taking all these bags and all this stuff, because she would say, you're going to hurt your back. And I'm like, you just going to hurt your life. Like, you bringing all this stuff and you're expecting whoever is around, whoever comes around to deal with that baggage. And that's not fair because it's your baggage. They might help you with some of it because there are some things others will heal. And I'm a firm believer that there are things that other people will help you heal. But you have to do the work. And I think that's really important as we're going into a new year. There's some stuff we still haven't dealt with. There's some stuff we're like, oh, 2023 is going to be everything. But you're still dealing with this hurt from somebody that wronged you. You're still dealing with daddy issues, because I had some of those too. You're still dealing with all this other stuff, and you want a new year to be better. And in effect, you're taking that baggage, and then you're going to take the stuff that happens in 2023, and it's just all going to build. And at some point, you do erupt. At some point, it becomes explosive to the point where, like a volcano, you can't stop it. It doesn't stop until it's done. So what would be something, I call you mom, I know. Y'all can call her LaShan or everything else, but I call her mama. What can we take into this new year? How can we process, even with these few days left? Because I know it seems so short, but there's still so much we can do, even in this year. How can we do this in 2022 so that when we start a new year, we can be at least at a point where we can move forward?
I often get visuals. So I got a picture of a scar,
Mm-hmm.
and you hurt yourself, you bruise your skin. The first thing they tell you to do is to clean it.
Mm-hmm.
So cleaning often just means that you have to expose it, that you have to allow what was in it that was old, maybe dirt, debris, hurt, pain, to be expelled. And all of us have different ways of doing that. So whatever that is, ultimately a release. Release the hurt, release the pain, even walking into a place of forgiveness. And sometimes you have to forgive people that don't want forgiveness, haven't asked for forgiveness, but it releases you from the offense.
Yeah.
So cleansing, and then being able to put on a salve. When I hurt myself or scratch myself, I have an aloe vera plant, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it does everything. And so for some of us, that may be prayer. For some of us, that may be meditation, reading, positive affirmations, saying affirmations, whatever it is that's going to help build us up, give us time to heal, to process. Don't deny what you're in. And I think even hearing this, sometimes it will be something that will prick your heart, prick your mind, your emotions. And as that comes to mind, don't dismiss it, deal with it, and put it in a place that now you can allow yourself to heal. And then lastly, once it begins to heal, don't pick the scab off.
Mm-hmm.
It'll heal, but don't
Yep.
just keep picking at it and letting it fester in your mind. So whatever it is, don't keep it at the forefront, but begin to re-author your narrative. What things good are going to come out of this, and then learn to have scars with no pain.
Mm.
Sometimes I don't always heal completely. I may still have a scar, but it's no longer associated with the pain. I look at it and I realize it happened to me, but because I've now gone to a healthy place in my mind and in my spirit, I can say it happened, but I'm better for it. Or it
Mm-hmm.
happened and I survived, which means I'm still better for it.
And it
So,
doesn't hurt like it did anymore.
mm-mm.
Oh, yes. And that's actually a great ending. Because I think sometimes, like I have several scars from my history. I have one situation I'll tell real quick where my brother decided, can I say this? Okay, this was back long, 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 long. We were kids, so don't be trying to call a law or anything. But my brother was playing with knives, and I was around, and somehow, like it's kind of blurry at this point, but somehow I got stabbed twice. Um, and those scars, I still to this day look at them because I still have them. But I realize that when I touch them, they don't hurt. I mean, they're still there. I still see them, but they don't hurt. They're disfiguring. I don't necessarily like that they're on my skin, but I can't really change it at this point. But it does not affect the integrity of who I am. It's there. It's a reminder that I got through that. I didn't die in it. I might have bled a little bit. It hurt. Um, I felt some kind of way towards him for a long time. I love you now, brother, if you're watching. But it didn't take me out, and that's where we are in this point. We have to, like Mama was saying, like get to that root. Allow ourselves to feel it. We don't often want to go back and be like, let me actually deal with it. But as I'll tell like some of my clients, you can't really heal until you're willing to face it. If you don't face it, it's just going to be there. It's going to pop up and you're going to be like, I thought I was okay, but then you realize you're not. So you have to face it. And maybe that's the start as we're ending this year. Like you're not going to finish this whole process in the last however many days of 2022. You're not, but you have to start. You have to face it. You have to acknowledge it and understand that processing it is not going to feel good. It's not going to be something that is just great all the time. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have good days. You're going to have days where it's just, you're almost in a trance. I've had those days too, where I'm like, I don't feel one way or another. I'm just kind of, we're making it. We're coasting through this day. But when I get to the end of the day, I made it. So you're going to have those days. but you have to start. And that's how I want us to go into this new year, starting at least, getting through the pain, processing it, acknowledging it, and knowing that it won't be like this always. And I'm always like, it will not. And I'm almost tearing up because there are some things I think about, and it felt like it was going to go on indefinitely. Like, this is never going to end. I'm always going to hurt like this. Whenever somebody says this, that's always going to hurt, you know. But then you get to a point and you look back and you realize, oh, wait, it doesn't feel that way. And wait a minute, I'm actually okay. you know and it's so strange when you feel that, because it's like, am I supposed to be okay? Oh, well, all right. I guess I'm
The new
okay.
normal, right?
And it's very weird, and it's still weird when I realize that I'm okay. But that's because I did the work of actually processing it, even if I didn't want to, and got to the other side, and then we process something else, and we just kind of, because emotions, it's what we do. Thanks, Lord. You gave us those. But we wouldn't be as great as we are without the emotions. So it all works together. So, ending thing, Mom, I want you to give just kind of a final push, for going into the new year. And then I want you to tell us how we can find the book and follow you and all those things, because I want y'all to follow her. Please, she is worthy to follow. I would not bring y'all anybody who I don't want you to follow. So she's going to end us out and then tell us where we can find her book and any future stuff going on. And then we're going to go from there.
Awesome. Thank you again for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure to talk to you in this mode as well as in others. So I just want to say in closing that it is not too late. The fact that you woke up this morning means that there is yet another opportunity for you to do better, be better, and have things in a better situation. So just look for better as you begin to close out this year, this chapter. Some of you may be watching this in 2023 or even another year or so. But just know, no matter where you are, that this is always a good day for a fresh start. And it doesn't matter what you've gone through. Some of us have been through hellacious things that we can't even necessarily air to the public, but just know that you can make it through it. You have 2 examples here. And if you look around, you'll see some other people that have come through it, and just know you can make it out of it. Like, don't get stuck. There's no pain that you can't overcome. And every day, every minute, you'll begin to see how resilient you are, how strong you are, and you can definitely make it through it. And I look forward to that. I look forward to hearing, notes and comments that you made it through it. Like,
Yes.
And if anything, you'll be the one that can now go back and give a hand up and tell somebody else that through my pain, this is what I process. You're pregnant. You're getting ready to have a beautiful, bouncing baby boy. And there's absolutely, if you go through the process, there's some pain with it. Carrying, there's pain, but the seed is worth the sacrifice.
It's worth it. Yes.
Worth the sacrifice. That was the thing that I woke up this morning with on my mind. Whatever it is you're carrying, whether it's a dream, vision, whether it's just a healthy whole life, it's worth the sacrifice. You can follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, and or on what else am I on? I don't know. Something else.
What's your handle?
It's LaShan Perry-Marr. It's just straightforward. It is who I am. And definitely, like, you can make it. You can make it. Today is the day. If you got up today, that means there's a purpose for you. So keep moving, keep pushing.
Okay. And Covered Girl Uncovered, right?
Yes, Cover Girl Uncovered. It can be found on Amazon. And if you just look up LaShan Perry-Marr, it'll be with Cover Girl Uncovered.
And I'll make sure I post that, since I want to make sure nobody misses it. All right. So this has been a weighty one, y'all. And I'm not going to say unfortunately, because it's what was necessary at this time. But each of the topics are going to be something just to kind of make you work inside. We're good at the outside. We go to, well, some of us, we go to the trainers and we do the exercise on the outside. But the mental health is so important. We have people, again, taking themselves out because they're not effectively dealing with those inside things. And I know that life. I've contemplated suicide. I've contemplated not being here. So I know that life. And if I had not done the work, I would not be here today. So that's why I'm so big on us doing that inner work, because I know how important that is. And then you're not here for your family. You're not here for your loved ones because you couldn't handle the mental. So let's do the work. As we go into this new year, if you're listening to this later, do the work. It's important. It doesn't feel good, but it's so necessary. I want you to live. I want you to be. I want you to thrive. I want to hear about you choosing something else. I want to hear about you deciding not to take your life. I want to hear about you saying there is more and I choose me over it. So please tell us, whether it's mama here or tell me. I always want to hear, because it's really important that we're getting it and we move forward. So this has been, again, processing in and through pain, 12 days of gracefulness. Keep following every day as we process some more things, some really important things, and continue to follow. There's a lot coming up for Grace in 2023, including a new baby, but that's a whole different story. But grace continues regardless of new baby and life changes, because my desire is always to see y'all healed, whole, healthy, and thriving. Okay. So this is it for today, but I will see y'all next time. Until then, bye.